Greetings, ninth grade scholars. Nefertari and Kenjay here with your distance learning for today, week 2, lesson 6. Today's video includes a list of the resources and materials needed for the lesson, a brief overview of the learning for the lesson, a quick modeling of the reading, thinking, speaking, and writing required, and a preview of upcoming lessons. In terms of an overview, please read with a family member, caregiver, or friend. Reread the text for a deeper understanding of what the author infers. Think about the ways that the details the author leaves out of the text also contributes to our depth of understanding about what we read. And then talk with your family member, caregiver, or friend about this question. What can you assume about William Shakespeare's life, even though it wasn't explicitly stated in his biography? Then lastly, we will get into a quick write activity, a close reading activity, and a comprehension question. For this week, April 20th through 24th, as a reminder, you always need your learning packet, something to write with, and an electronic device is optional. For day 2, we're going to focus on a quick write activity, a comprehension question. Today is pretty much focused on making inferences about the text. Making inferences might be new for some of you. Never worry. Teacher Nefertari is here to outline exactly what is entailed in making inferences about the text. Our target is that we can analyze and develop a deep understanding of the text by making an inference about what the author left out of the text. So that's a clue. An inference is about predicting, making a judgment about what the author decided to leave out. In our close reading steps, we are engaging in a close read and analysis of the text today. We will consider the ways that the details the author left out of the text also gives us clues to draw conclusions and make inferences about what we read. Today's activities, the quick write activity, asks this question. Why was skepticism so intense when Shakespeare's popularity was at its height? That question is interesting. It's in our text. They do detail the fact that Shakespeare had a lot of skepticism. But why was it intense when he was at the height of his popularity? That answer is not explicitly stated, but rather it makes you have to make an inference as a reader. So that is pretty much based upon your opinion. You make an educated guess about why his haters would be more encouraged the more popular Shakespeare got in the time period in which he lived. For our close reading activity, there's a graphic organizer today. That graphic organizer helps us to see what the text says and then to say, I can infer. So, for your benefit, the graphic organizer has been filled out. I either gave you a clue of what the text says, or I gave you a clue of what you can infer. And I've only asked for each of you to single out what the text says and make an inference on your own for one of the spaces in our graphic organizer. You get to choose what part of the text you want to focus on. The text says this, therefore I can infer or make an educated guess that this is what happened. Lastly, we will end today with a comprehension question. There's just one question about what inferences we can make about William Shakespeare's life, even though this information was not explicitly stated in his biography. Let's review inference. I promised you that we would, scholars. An inference is when the reader makes an educated guess about what the author left out of a text. Readers may infer from unstated thoughts, feelings, actions, or situations. Inferences are prompted by the question why. So, always remember, what information did the author leave out? And then ask yourself, that's right, why? Why did the author leave that out? In other words, scholars, let's read between the lines. A quick modeling of the reading and thinking we need to use in today's assignment. Let's go back to the section of our text entitled Controversy and Literary Legacy. In this section, I've underlined something I think might be important to you. About 150 years after his death, questions arose about the authorship of William Shakespeare's plays. So, there's the skepticism. That is the questioning, the doubts, people's wondering whether his work was even authentic or real. If we move down to paragraph 17, it says skeptics also questioned how someone could write so well. That assumption means that they thought Shakespeare had little to no education. You should make an inference based on what the author did share with us and what was left out. There are also a couple other clues I've underlined. The most serious and intense skepticism began in the 19th century when Shakespeare's popularity was at its greatest. Make your haters your congratulators. Let's determine why Shakespeare came under so much fire right at the height of his popularity. And then there are a couple other words that I've underlined. They stand out to me. Maybe they will to you too. Aristocratic society. Education. Similarities between his poetry and the poetry of someone else. Lots of skepticism there, scholars. Now, your turn. As you engage in this activity today, you go ahead and draw your own conclusion to answer this question. Why was skepticism so intense when Shakespeare's popularity was at its height? Then, complete the close reading activity by filling in the inferences or what the text says in the graphic organizer. The only question I want you to answer today: what can you assume about Shakespeare's life, even though it wasn't explicitly stated in his biography? So for that comprehension question, choose something that you are assuming. It's not in the bio. Okay, as your reminders, share the lesson by interacting with someone in your family. Complete 20 minutes of reading after you finish with our lesson for today. And always do your fluency exercise by choosing one page of the weekly text and using the fluency instructions. As a preview of our Day 3 learning, we're going to focus on author's word choice tomorrow, and we're analyzing the craft and structure. So, a reminder of our close reading routine is here, and as always, if you have questions, email your teacher for support. Bye, scholars.